It's the next day in Steve's backyard, and here's the little tree that I'm fighting regret. Not really. I think there's some good things that can happen with this tree yet. I've always heard, you know, don't take a certain amount of foliage off in one fell swoop. But I've done that. And then some. So there's a little bit of fear here. But what I want to do is just pull this out of the pot today, investigate what's going on down below. So let's get started on exposing the roots here. As I mentioned, I had just taken this out of a nursery container and slipped it into this container, and I put used bonsai soil around it. Just sort of looking at the roots, but not really wanting to, or looking at how much trunk I can expose. So this would have a smattering of bonsai soil, but mostly it's the nursery soil that it was in. I wanted to see if I could stimulate a little more fine root growth toward the outer edges, roots that I could use at a later date. So that's what I'm doing today. Today would be that later date. These gloves are great, very thick, puncture resistant. Easy to put on. This has always been way too heavy for its size. There's some white root tips in there, so I'm going to be real careful here. I don't want to be scared away from what I'm doing just because it might be the wrong time of year. Going for my chopstick. And I'm going to go into time lapse for this. I'm not sure how long it's going to take, but I want it to take as long as it takes. Not too much in the way of white root hairs, but there's one right there. Oh well. Let's move ahead. Well, I've got a nice tangled mass of roots here. I'm going to wash this off. I have a bucket of water sitting here, and I'll clean this up a bit, and we'll come back and take a closer look at these roots. Okay, this little white root seems to be the only active root, and there are a lot more active roots coming out of this. I don't know what you want to call this jumble of root under here. So I've got to figure out what I can safely excise from this and what would be a mistake to try. I might not be able to distinguish between those two things, but that's how you learn, right? You know, on the one hand, I'm glad nobody's looking over my shoulder saying, don't touch. But on the other hand, I wish somebody was looking over my shoulder saying, don't touch. Maybe some of you are doing that. This is my first Mugo pine. This is actually my first pine. So there's some very distracting things at the top of this. So I'm just going to start hacking and see what happens. Okay, this comes from here and goes up. So I'm sure this is tangled by something else, and it is. There's nothing much attached to this. Pull that out. This is what I was just working on. Some of this is just mad hacking, and that's all I can do at this point. Okay. So hard to see where things come from. And I'm just trying to clear up the root plane. There's definitely going to be some things here that we're going to have to live with. But I'm trying to improve this tree. I can redirect that. I'm not going to try and take this big root off just yet, but I am going to shorten everything that's coming off of it, kind of wholesale. It's got a section that goes back down and around, but it does have some nice feeder hairs at the tip. This is ugly. This is very ugly. All right. I'm going to cut a large section of this off. Boy. It's going to be hard not to do a hack job on this. You know, I'm just going to have to plant it in good bonsai soil, well drained. And hope for the best. Okay, this part of this root goes kind of back around the tree. I know it's very hard to see all this. I'm going to trim the ends of this off. That's a lot of root. Okay, this is a messy operation. very, very poorly arranged roots that have never been arranged. But a bunch of these are going straight down, and I think they're just going to have to be sacrificed, or at least sacrificed lower down. Mugo pines don't like a lot of root work. Mugo pines don't like a lot of root work. Mugo pines don't like a lot of root work. Well, perhaps that ship has sailed. I watched Dave's Bonsai, his Mugo Pine segment, and he mentioned that he had made some errors in his first attempt at a Mugo. I assume they were fatal errors. I may be making some of my own. He said he didn't realize that the roots came from further up, that he was cutting down below. And those words are echoing through my head right now. Is it visible from the side that I had thought would be the front? Not really. So, is it worth saving this root? Yeah, I don't think so. Maybe if I just cut the end off. Okay, I think the answer for now will be a round pot. I'll try and get the best planting angle for the roots that I've got. Leave this tree in the greenhouse to recover. Matt at Bobcat Bonsai said that he mists the foliage, and that seems to help. All right, I just have to hope some better roots develop. On this tree. So what I got here is kind of horrific. All of you people who were saying that tree's gonna die, well, I hope you're not right, but you might be right. All right, let me look around and see what kind of pot I have for this, and I'll come back. That's ugly. Let's see if I can find the right pot. Okay, so I have this pot that I took my Texas ebony out of. It's got a few squirrel or chipmunk gnawings on it, but it's in great shape. And I think it's perfect size for this tree to grow out in. And I really want something compact for it. I've prepared the pot. I've got tie-down wire, and I've got a drainage screen in the bottom. Now let's get a base layer of soil in there. I'll mound it up in the middle Let's see if I can find a decent arrangement for this. I'm going to arrange the roots as radially as possible. And let's start filling in this soil. Just a little bit more and I'll start working it in. First I'm going to tie it down. I think I'm going to take advantage of the void between the two trunks there. As a good place to tie down. That should be good. Pull up and turn. Pull up and turn. Pull up and turn. Okay, that's got it tied down pretty well. Just cut off the excess. Bury that in the soil. Check it for stability. Plenty stable. And I work in the soil everywhere around the root ball, every place I feel a void. If there's a root sticking up, try and bury it. We may end up cutting some of these roots off. This tree has a long way to go now. I did pick up something interesting. I think that separated trunk adds some character to it. Not a look that I love, but you got to take what the tree gives you, right? Okay, the idea is for this baby to live. Big void right there. Okay, let me top that soil off. Okay, if it lives, I've got a pretty nice tree. It's got some issues, but let's see what happens. I'm sure it's going to have not 100% positive reaction to having been root pruned. If I get some nice feeder roots developing in here after the fact, terrific. All right, let me get this watered up and misted. Okay, here we go. So what do you think? Did I kill it? But for now, grow on, little thing, grow on. Okay, that's it on my Mugo Pine. Not sure what I'm going to do with this in the long run, but I'll do something. All right, if it lives, that's a bonus. Okay, let's take one last look at my Mugo Pine. Did a lot of work on it in the last day or so. It had nothing done to it at all. The roots are a mess, but if it lives, it might have a good start. So that's it for today. Thank you for keeping me company in my backyard.